Chapter 10: My Story of Multiple Income Streams. So, if you go back in time about 20 years as I'm recording this, I had my last real job. I was the guy who went to college, got the best grades I could, which weren't really that great ultimately, married my college sweetheart, my wife, Andrea, in 1994. That dates how long we've been around as a married couple, still best friends. We met about the time we were in college. She actually was far smarter than I was academically, graduated towards the top of her class, but I was a very average student. But I got a good job out of school while she was still finishing college. And that led to a couple other decent jobs. I'd certainly proven that I was capable of working hard. I had a good work ethic. I was raised in a farm environment as a young man with my brother and my mom and dad on a farm on 50 acres. So I was used to getting up early and working hard, but I didn't like sitting and focusing and memorizing facts and data. I was never a great student. I was capable, but never great. So my grades reflected that. I was always easily distracted and always dreamed of maybe having my own business someday. I actually remember as a young child running a yard sale at one point, getting all the toys out of my room and putting them on our front lawn, putting price tags on all of them. We lived out in the middle of the country on 50 acres. I think that Saturday afternoon, we maybe saw 4 or 5 cars drive by and none of them even stopped. I didn't have any signs out. I think I was 4 or 5 years old at the time. I was pretty young. And I think I learned my first lesson about needing traffic if you want to have a good business. But that entrepreneurial spirit was always inside of me. And I think it's inside of most of us. But as a college student, I graduated, like I said, got my first job. That led down the career path, the typical career path that most of us are told makes the most sense, which is get as good grades as you can, get the best job you can, get the best salary you can, work as hard as you can to climb as high as you can in that corporate environment. And then hopefully at some point, save your way towards having a decent retirement. That's the typical plan most people are told. Well, I started to get this itch, this bug. I knew I was made for more. I knew I was capable of more. I knew there was more out there. And when eBay came on the scene in the mid to late 90s, I was one of the first early adapters. I still to this day have one of the oldest PayPal accounts, which was the payment option of choice. Instead of sending checks in the mail back and forth with PayPal, or excuse me, when you sold on eBay, you would use PayPal instead. And it revolutionized the way people were paying each other back then. When PayPal first launched, actually, they would pay you $5 to get other people to sign up to use the service. And I collected multiple $5 payments from PayPal, spreading the word as I began to share my eBay adventure. So here I was with a good job. I was actually selling Microsoft software, the software licensing. My territory was the state of Indiana. I worked for a couple different companies in that niche industry. There's only a handful of companies at the time that were doing such things. It's been a long time removed from that industry, so I don't even know what it looks like now. But at the time, I moved from one company to a competitor. It was a good business. It was a good income. It was a nice, stable 6-figure income if you worked hard, something close to that if you didn't work as hard. And I was good at it. But one day I was having lunch with my boss, who was about my age, and we were having a very candid conversation about life and business and family, that sort of thing. I started sharing with him the fact that my internet business was so fun. I was enjoying it in the evenings and on the weekends. I was starting to make some significant money. I even said, half in passing, I said, wow, if that gets really big at some point, I might have to have a conversation with you about transitioning the territory to someone else. But don't worry about that. I would give you guys plenty of warning if it ever came to that point. And he continued the conversation politely enough. But then the next day, after having talked to his boss about our conversation, he showed up at my office again and asked me to leave the company. I was fired. So I had to make a decision at that point. Was my young fledgling eBay business going to be the sole source of income for our soon to be family of 3? My wife was pregnant with our 3rd son at that point. So I had to go home and explain to my wife that I'd been fired that day. And after some contemplation together, we decided that going full into internet, even though she was 8 months pregnant at the time, was the way to go. Losing all of our insurance, I wasn't going to send out any resumes, completely abandoning the career that I'd been in for several years with our young family. Had a mortgage payment, car payment. We had very real bills to pay and not a lot of money in the bank, but we took the leap at that point, making me now one of the earliest adapters of using the internet as a sole source of income, building multiple income streams. That was 20 years ago. Since then, we've raised 5 kids. 3 of them are international adoptions, 2 of them are biological. One of the ways that I keep track of how long I've been doing this full time is the son, the second biological son that my wife was pregnant with at the time, his birthday falls at about the same time as the launch of my full time internet career. So that's all my kids have ever really known for the most part is dad at home, working in his office, using the internet creatively. My kids have launched their own businesses or they work in my business now. Our oldest is in middle teens and or excuse me, my youngest is in her middle teens. That's our only daughter. My oldest is in his mid 20s and married. No grandkids yet, but probably inevitable at some point soon. We have 2 married, 1 about to be, and 2 still at home. That's our family. We've used the internet to do so many incredible things to provide financially for our family so that we can travel. We can live flexible lifestyle. If it's a nice day, we'll hop in the car and go to the zoo, go to a park, enjoy the day. Maybe I'll work that evening. So we have a nice collection of very flexible income streams that we've enjoyed over a long period of time. And as I shared in an earlier chapter, any given day, the business will do somewhere between a few $1,000s up to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on what projects are happening at any given time. But it's a multiple $1,000,000 per year business with multiple income streams. They're all centered around using the internet creatively to either sell physical products on Facebook Marketplace, Walmart, eBay, or our favorite, Amazon, which is where the vast majority of our online sales are happening with physical goods. We've got a warehouse located not too far from here where, as of the recording of this audio, any given day, 3, sometimes 4 members of my family and 3, sometimes 4 or more other people who work in the warehouse are supporting our Amazon selling business, as well as some other companies. We handle their logistics and their shipping for them. We've got a bit of a prep center started up there and a handful of clients. So that's a few of the income streams. And then we do coaching and consulting. This book or this audio that you've got, maybe you purchased it. So that would be an income stream, creating content, the podcast, the events that we do annually. We're getting ready to prepare right now for our 11th annual event for e-commerce sellers, making it the longest running Amazon e-commerce event in the industry, to my knowledge, along with our coaching program that's coming up on 20 years old as I record this. We've serviced almost 10,000 students over that time with the same coaching director, by the way, the entire time, my good buddy, Nathan Bailey, who's been with me through thick and thin, but we've maintained a tremendous reputation and created so many great success stories over the years in an industry where most people last maybe a year or 2, e-commerce coaching, business coaching. That's the average lifespan, a year or 2. I don't know of anyone who's been doing it half as long as we have at this point, and I'm pretty proud of that. That's the income streams that my family enjoys. That's our story. My daily routine isn't one of chaos where I feel like I'm managing 100 different things. I've built an incredible team. I mentioned in earlier chapters the approximately 100 people or so that I get to work with, some of which I know very well and work with on almost a daily basis, and many of which that I only talk to maybe once every few weeks. We've got a bit of a organizational structure, although we're a very flat organization. Everybody knows their roles. Everybody has extreme flexibility. We've got people helping with the podcast and the technical side of that, and helping with our sponsors for the podcast, selling sponsorship slots to our events. We've got people doing the mailings, the email. We've got people in customer support who answer any questions about billing and that sort of thing, people who lose their password or struggling with a certain aspect of interacting with us online. We've got our Facebook group administrators and moderators, people who help make sure that all the spams and the clowns stay out of our Facebook group. There's about 72,000 people there, making it one of the most active groups for e-commerce sellers in the world. So as you can imagine, we attract a lot of negative attention, all kinds of interesting lessons that come out of what we've learned from running and managing that group over the years. But we're so proud of the fact that hundreds and hundreds of success stories have been posted there as well. And it's such an encouraging, uplifting environment. So that's some of our marketing there as well. And so you can see I've got a lot of different things that I could be distracted with any given day that I could dive into, but instead I choose to put good people in place and give them a big cut of the margin of the businesses that are being built so that I can operate from a place of observing and improving and teaching. My favorite role in my entire business is to do the interviews with the successful students from this community. So a couple times per week or more, I will sit down like I'm doing right now, creating this audio, except I'll have a guest on the screen with me. And it's a student of ours. Typically, it's a student from the Proven Amazon course, which is our flagship training course that I strongly encourage you to check out. If you're at all interested in any strategies involved with selling online or e-commerce, you'll benefit tremendously from that. But typically, I'm interviewing one of those students and they're telling their story of how they got started. And I love hearing their journey, how they discovered e-commerce, how they discovered our community, what tools and strategies they're using that are working, what challenges they have, the transparency of their stories, the emotional ups and downs, and then the triumphs of eventually building something beautiful. That's most of our podcast episodes. That's what I enjoy the most of all the duties that I have, all the responsibilities that I have. That's the one I enjoy the most. And my list of things that I have to do isn't that long. Remember, I talked about how to build multiple income streams involves always asking yourself, am I the only one that could be doing the things that I'm doing right now? Stated differently, only do the things that only you can do. I've been saying that since a very early version of this work, and it's held true, and I've built my business around that. So if I've built a successful system and it's profitable, and I've done it myself to that point, but if it's profitable, it's time for me to step back and take a little bit less of those profits and put a competent person in charge, rewarding them with a portion of the profits to run that system on my behalf. That's every income stream I have. The only true duty that I have where I need to show up is this podcast that I do a couple times a week. Like I mentioned, my favorite job. I don't want to give it up. I could probably put someone else in place of that, but I truly enjoy it. And it's a chance for me to speak passionately on the topics that I most want to share with the world. I enjoy teaching. I've taken my own advice very seriously. It was advice given to me by a good handful of mentors over the years, and that is use your voice, speak boldly, share what you know, share the journey. And if I hadn't listened to that voice over 20 years ago, the first version of this book that's now in its 11th update as I record this audio, it never would have happened. I was very tempted to just keep the ideas to myself. At the time, this is before I was fired, I was selling on eBay. I was having a lot of success there, evenings, weekends, selling different items, finding them. A lot of my friends were asking, hey, what are you doing? How do you do that? Is that really worth your time? How much money are you making with that? Is that something you could teach me? And instead of sending them emails and going to coffee or letting them pick my brain for an hour at a time like they were requesting, I decided just to create a little PDF book. The first version was just a few pages, and I sent it out for free to anyone who asked about my business. I was excited about what this could potentially mean for my family. I wanted to share that with others. As they read this work and passed it around, I was getting contacted by strangers asking for copies of it. So I decided I was going to start charging a few dollars for this. That was the first version of Silent Sales Machine. Some people out there still have their copies. They've printed them out. It was just an electronic document at the time. And very quickly, I realized that version 1 was getting out of date. I created version 2. I created a slick cover. And I think it was around version 3 that we actually had a printed copy and began selling physical printed copies, mailing them out to people. And then eventually we were on Amazon, where we've sold total combined as of version 9 or 10, about 1 million copies on Amazon and through our own websites. So the book has really made its rounds over the years. We've got over 1,000 great reviews on Amazon. And as I'm recording this version of it, currently it's only available in audio or video, and you can enjoy it that way. We'll probably create a transcription pretty soon at silentsalesmachine.com. You can see what options are available there. But this book started out as me just being willing to share my journey, to share my leadership journey, to share my voice, tell my story, tell what I know. If I didn't know the answer, I was very open always to say, I don't know, but I think we should build a community. And if that community doesn't know, well, then we're truly stumped. But I think it's going to be hard to outsmart a community of us who are doing this together. So I've always been community oriented. My goal throughout all of this has been to help other families see the journey that we've enjoyed and come to experience the flexibility of time and the liberty, and to also build a community of people that we can rely on and lean on, that we can grow and do this together, share each other's stories, share our wins, share our losses, have a shoulder to cry on. I often call the listeners to my podcast, for example, business building warriors, because we have a very common journey that we're fighting. We're protecting the people behind us, and we're trying to provide for our customers, and we're fighting those things that are trying to bring our business down, those outside forces that would try to sink us. It really is a battle. We need camaraderie. We need community. So that was what I wanted to build. Over the years, we've seen it happen. The Facebook group now has 72,000 members as I'm recording this audio. It's a completely free resource. Our Facebook, as I'm recording this, our podcast has been downloaded 5 million times on iTunes alone as I'm recording this today. So that's got some good momentum. It's one of the top e-commerce Amazon podcasts in the world. And we've got a mailing list where any given month we'll send out somewhere between 600,000 and 800,000 emails to our full list, and a great open rate of over 30%, which is tremendous in the industry, which means we're sending out content that people want to see. If you're not aware, in the email industry, the average is typically somewhere under 20%. 10 to 15 is not unheard of. So the fact that 30% or more of everyone that receives an email from us actually opens it, that's pretty good. We're excited about that. We've coached almost 10,000 people over the years. We're very proud of that as well, like I mentioned earlier. So those are some of the numbers of my business, some of what's been happening in my life. And I can tell you, I'm passionate about helping others do the exact same thing. I've got many people that I've mentored over the years who've become incredible leaders in the internet marketing industry. They're leading with passion and integrity and teaching the world what they know, building beautiful businesses, selling products to people all over the world, the connections and the relationships. If there was a way to visualize it and put it on a board, it would be something pretty impressive at this point. But I see myself as a steward on a personal note. I don't believe that any of this is my achievement. I don't believe that any of it even belongs to me. There's a biblical concept of stewardship that if you've never been introduced to, it's one of my favorite Bible lessons. Remember, I've said earlier and throughout this book that the Bible has a lot to say about money and business. Well, one of them is the principle of stewardship. And stewardship is simply this: it's managing property that belongs to another, seeking to improve and expand that property while you're in charge of it, and then returning that property upon request to its rightful owner. So as a Christian, that's what I see this business as. This community isn't mine. The products and even the ideas, the relationships, the connections, the financial benefit, none of it's mine. It all belongs to my Heavenly Father. And I'm tasked as a steward with improving and expanding, growing that audience, making it more profitable, influencing more people, teaching and educating and coaching as many as possible, selling as many products to as many people as possible, making it profitable so I can continue to operate without needing donations. That's all a business is, by the way, from my vantage point. It's a service that's self-funded. You're serving others without needing donations. That's what a business is. People pay you voluntarily. Unless you're serving them well, they're not going to pay you. If you do serve them well, they pay you and you can serve even more people. But because I'm a steward, what that also means is at some point, this will be required of me to return it to its rightful owner. So at some point, this community, the products, the ideas, the courses, the content, it won't be mine any longer. It's not mine now. It will move on and serve others. But my vision is the community that uses the internet creatively to launch and grow multiple income streams will continue indefinitely. People seeing success through an abundance lens and being willing to help others with the ideas and the lessons that they've learned along the way, and sharing transparently what works, what doesn't work, encouraging the skeptical newbies, and being a shoulder to cry on for the experienced, battle-hardened warriors who still run into challenges that make them cry sometimes. and then enjoying those moments of triumph and seeing those breakthrough moments that none of us could have possibly imagined. Some of the most humble, quiet people that you can imagine, going from being uncertain with imposter syndrome to building beautiful businesses that blow our minds and standing on stage and teaching all of us how the world of internet and e-commerce works and the beautiful things that have been built because of the relationships and the connections and the ideas from this community. That's the most rewarding thing that I can imagine. Is this would continue. We say in our group all the time that leaders produce leaders. And one of the measures of a great leader is what things look like after they've been gone for a while. I learned that one from my dad, actually. He had many great bits of wisdom to apply in life and business. And although he wasn't very entrepreneurial, he sure did understand people and leading. He was a pastor for 40 plus years. He and my mom were clean and sober for 40 plus years after me being raised as an alcoholic, after me being raised in an alcoholic home, I should say. And it was such a blessing to see their lives turned around because they committed their lives to the Lord and completely did a 180-degree change with their life. My dad went on to be one of the greatest pastors and leaders and mentors. And they're both, until he died in December of 2020, they were both very active in an organization called Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christian version of Alcoholics Anonymous, if you've heard of that. And that was their passion and their commitment. And my mom still works in that to this day. So I'm very proud of them and their journey and what that poured into me. But our family has always stood for and represented serving others with excellence, helping them come from wherever they are now. If they're willing to look up and move forward, we're going to stand alongside them and help them get to that next level of where they're trying to climb. And for my family and me, oftentimes that means encouraging them in business and business success so they can achieve the liberty and the financial freedom that we've been able to enjoy. We want that for so many others. So God bless you, Business Building Warrior. Thanks for hanging out with me during this book. I hope you've enjoyed it and benefited from it tremendously. The action items I have for you, this final chapter, is to go decide if this community, this tribe that is gathered around these kinds of ideas is a good fit for you. Are these the kind of people that you want to build some relationships with? Or is this something that you want to integrate into your life? The best ways to do that would be to get over to silentjim.com. silentjim.com. You'll see a link to our podcast there. Go listen to 15 or 20 episodes of me talking to, or and some of the other people on our team, the leaders, talking to some of the great success stories from our community. I think you'll find that very inspirational and encouraging. It'll certainly help you know, are these the kind of people that I want to be hanging out with? Is this the kind of opportunity that I want to pursue? Get into our Facebook group. There's a link on that same page, silentjim.com. Make some observations. We got hundreds of tagged success stories right in that group. You'll see people helping each other out very transparently, talking each other through, encouraging each other in the different business models that we teach around here. If you're ready to make an investment in your business, you've got a couple great options. Our coaching team is fantastic. It's the best in the world, actually, from my vantage point. You can go to silentjim.com and see a link to our coaching program. All of our coaches, as I mentioned earlier in this book, have a couple things in common, and that's this. First, they've had tremendous success building businesses using the ideas that we teach in this community. So they've built a solid business. Next, they have enough margin in their life and a teacher's heart so that they can take on a handful of students at a time and help them go on a similar journey towards building the business of their dreams using the ideas that we teach here. It's very relational. It's not cookie cutter. There's no workbook where you fill in the blanks. This is going to be about helping establish where you are now, where you want to be, and helping you build the systems to get you there using someone who's made a very similar journey as to what you're trying to make. Having a mentor, having a coach makes a huge difference. You'll hear that as a theme on countless podcast episodes at silentjim.com. Hundreds of interviews with students who've used our coaching programs over the years. Like I said earlier, we've coached nearly 10,000 people as I record this. So that's another option for an action step. Finally, the Proven Amazon course, which is the most established Amazon seller training in the world. We have students all over the globe, success stories from all over the globe. It's the most established Amazon seller training, meaning it's been around longer than any other. It's sold more copies than any other. It's used in universities and classrooms and Sunday school rooms all over the world. And we're super excited to introduce it to you if you're ready to begin using Amazon as the business of choice for your multiple income streams. And if you were to come to us and say, I'm a clean slate, teach me how to build a beautiful business using the internet creatively. I want to eventually grow into multiple streams of income. I come with no prior set expectations. I come with no product I'm trying to launch or passion project I'm working on. I just want you to teach me something that works. We're going to get you into the Proven Amazon course, get you started through the beginner basic modules there. If you've got a more advanced business, we've got very advanced modules and training as well. Consider the Proven Amazon course to be a library that's constantly being updated and old stuff moved out, new stuff moved in. It's everything that our team knows about how to succeed using Amazon creatively to build a beautiful business. But that's certainly not all that we teach in this community. As you've heard throughout this book, numerous other examples of people building beautiful businesses and sharing that success and sharing those lessons with the rest of us. So we'll continue to be creative as a community. We will continue to pour our hearts into our work. And like I already mentioned earlier in this chapter, you are a business building warrior. If you make the choice to be, we're going to be here standing alongside you, encouraging you, giving you the creative encouragement and ideas and support that you need to continue on the journey, because you cannot do it alone. One last time, God bless you, business building warrior. Thanks for spending some time with me on this book. Go take your action steps now.